Welcome to the Black Male Impact. Today we have as guest Dr. Elliott Heflin. Dr. Heflin, welcome to the Black Male Impact.
Yes, thank you for inviting me, sir.
Man, it's a pleasure having you here on the Black Male Impact. And I just want the listeners to know Mr. Heflin is an educator, entrepreneur, and specialized in robotics and coding. But before we get into the conversation, I'll give Dr. Heflin the opportunity to share with you more about himself so you can get an understanding of who he is before we get into the conversation. Dr. Heflin.
Yes, you guys, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm what they call a career student. I've been involved in education, you can say, probably half of my life. And I started out in computer science. My undergraduate degree is in computer science. My master's is in educational technology, along with a doctoral in educational technology / educational leadership. So, you guys, I've pretty much school is me. And I pretty much don't do too much outside of that, but I do specialize in coding. Being specific about that is Python, JavaScript, and Scratch, and humanoid robotics. All of that makes up me, you guys.
All right, man. That's great. And with technology and where we're going right now, how do you find it's being received by schools, by parents, in regards to the technology that you focuses on?
Okay, I'm getting a very positive response from coding, and it seems like a lot of people outside of the school system is really paying attention to what's going on in today's technology as far as coding, the aspect of coding. So I'm getting a lot of feedback from that. But my concern is I want to make sure that the school comes in a little bit more, because I believe that the student should encounter this type of material earlier in age instead of later on.
Okay. So, but when it comes to schools or who respond to you with coding and robotics, is it more the affluent schools or the schools that are those underserved schools?
It's usually affluent schools. Sad to say. I've been looking very hard and trying to figure out why this is not happening or feasible. Why? Because I get a lot of influx from affluent communities.
Okay.
But I come to understand that a person needs to put their priorities in order. I think the people who look like myself and in my community, it's not really a priority. I don't know if it's because of exposure, but it needs to be more than a priority. I mean, it needs to be a priority.
Well, as you just said, exposure will help to change the desire for projects like yours. Because if the students don't see it or it's not introduced to them, they may not see the need to do it. And if we want, say, our Black students to really take on this type of technology, we have to expose them to it. And just like anything else, if we want them to have the desire, I should say, for anything, technology, entrepreneurship, we have to expose them to it. We have to let them see that they can do these things because they can. Sometimes why they don't is because they're not exposed to it. So, but I would say, man, keep doing the work because as Black men, we have to share what we know with our communities so they can see there is a need and the impact they can have by pursuing their career in what we think can help them to live the life that they want. Because we're not just one-sided. We can do a lot of things. So with that being said, I want to get into the conversation where focuses on the change that is possible that we can make within our communities. So my first question to you, what is the mindset that it takes to make a positive impact?
Well, the mindset that we need to develop as a community, we need to start to put our, I guess you can say, like I mentioned before, our priorities in what's really happening in the world. Really pay attention to what's happening in the world. And we know that technology is pushing ahead. And if you didn't want to know it, you know it by the pandemic. The
That's right.
pandemic has shown you that technology is very important. So now, since you know, even at a layman's level, you know that it's important. So now it's time for us as a community and outside of the community to realize that this is something that's here to stay.
Okay.
Just to put it very plain, people have spent, school systems have spent millions of dollars on technology, just to make it blank. I mean, just to make it plain. And we know to be a good business person, you're not going to spend millions of dollars and end up storing all of that equipment from the pandemic in a closet. So you might as well take that out and start to use that technology to, I guess you can say, expose your students to the current technology and be frank and let them know that we are number four, number four in the world in technology. And that's not something to be proud about. That's not something to be proud about because we know in competition and in any competitive ring, number four is not mentioned.
Well, yes, you don't make it on the podium. You don't make it on the podium. But yes, you're right. The pandemic have shown us that technology is important, and we realize that even some of the communities, the poor communities, were affected by it, and where some things weren't implemented. But as you mentioned, if you have spent the money to put the system in place, don't revert after the pandemic, to go forward. And that means we have to start exposing the young people, especially to what they need to advance, to be competitive, to have something to do that will give them some leverage, as they go forward. So I do support what you're saying with technology. And when it comes to change, to pay attention to what's going on and to have that mindset to take on the change and to, what I would say now, once you pay attention to the change that's happening, you implement the things that will help you to be competitive with the change. And so you give the young people a chance to be as competitive with others across the country, in the world itself.
Yes. And I want to emphasize on, we have, like you had mentioned before, we have fluent school districts, so to speak, with the cash to be able to do it within their budget. But we have to be very mindful that they do not just use the school budget. So we need to get away from that excuse. And if we remember from our day when we went to school in the US, they had bake sales, they had different raffles, they had different, I guess you could say, like charity events and different things like that, where they can generate money for different projects that they wanted for their school. That is the difference. We need to get away from And I know this is kind of like a sidebar, but we need to get away from depending on others to take care of what we need to take care as men of our community. We need to make that happen. And women also.
Well, I do agree with you with being independent or start doing what we can do and don't wait on others to do for us what we can do. I do agree with that, especially when we're talking about change, especially when we're talking about moving forward, especially when we're talking about being competitive with the world, with other groups, with people in itself from different ethnic backgrounds. We have to take initiative to move the needle forward. So I do agree with that mindset, that approach to creating positive change. Don't wait on someone to do for us what we can do for ourselves. And we can start with whatever resources we have, and others will see the progress that we're making and may come and support, but we cannot wait until support comes before we start moving forward.
Yes.
And
Dr.
I do
Cross,
agree.
go
Yes, go ahead.
Dr. Cross, when I started my journey here
Yes.
on this technology journey, exposing people like myself to this technology, I asked myself one question.
Yes.
I said, what did the people do before as a community that we were not allowed to participate? What did we do? We counted on us. We counted on our village. And I think we need to revert back to that to get it started. All of this, waiting in line, or I don't know. I can't understand, because everything that I do and everything that you see me do is my money. I don't ask the school for anything. Why? I've been on the planet almost 60 years. They haven't gave our community anything so far. So why should I continue on, as the old people say, be the dead horse? So
Well, and sometimes if you wait, you will never move forward.
yes.
You will never get your ideas out there. The world will not know what you are good at because you're waiting for someone to give you the green light.
Yes.
And if you continue to wait, your greatness will not be known and the impact that you can make will not happen. So sometimes, even to get whatever support that is out there, you may have to start that journey first and invest in it, invest in yourself. And that's something that we have to realize to make change, to be the change, and to let the world know what we can do. Start that journey again with whatever resources we have and just keep moving forward. And as we are on that about being dependent, I would ask this question: what advice do you have for the men listening and how they can play a role in creating positive change?
Okay. Positive change, far as making, if we're talking about technology, correct?
Well, it can be technology, whichever you see fit that we need to do as men. It can be supporting it. It can be exposing our immediate children, kids, the schools, or wherever we work. What role can we play in creating change?
Okay. I would say that as Black males, the ones who have the knowledge, share, share. Make sure that you share. Make sure that you expose more than just your immediate family. Make sure that you come out into the community to share your knowledge. And if you can't make it to an event or whatever, donate to the event. There's always a way. You can donate monetarily, or you can donate physically by being there as a volunteer. But we need each other. We're going to have to do this to make an impact, like Dr. Cross is mentioning. To make an impact on the community, we are going to have to be involved. We're going to have to be involved. We know this stuff is out here. We know it's out here, and we know even by I guess you could say happenstance, we know that we're not competitive. And you can do that simply by just turning on your TV. You don't see yourself as a representative. So what are you going to do about that? You need to put yourself out there. So now, if we put ourselves out there enough, people won't have a choice but to see.
Well, man, you are so right with sharing the knowledge when we're talking about what we can do to create change. Share the knowledge that we have and support what we believe in and what we believe can make a difference. And as you said, put ourselves out there. As you said, you may turn the TV on and you don't see yourself. How can we become seen? We have to put ourselves out there. We have to be courageous enough. We have to be bold enough. We have to have that strong desire to write our own story. Let the world know who we are and what we're about and what difference we want to make. So I really appreciate that perspective when it comes to creating positive change. And that is, as you mentioned, to share the knowledge that we have. We have so much. We know so much. And it's not about one area, because some of us are versed in technology, some of us are versed in entrepreneurship, some of us are versed in business, some of us are versed in financial literacy. Whatever it is that we are versed in, we need to share that. And on the other side, when we're talking about positive change, as you mentioned, is to support what we believe will make a difference, because it goes back to what you said with the type of mindset that we need to have, and that is to be dependent. So if we're going to be dependent, we have to give where we can give to help advance those who are out there trying to make a positive impact when it comes to our young people.
Yes, yes. I believe that wholeheartedly, man. And I understand, on a tangent a little bit, I understand that by doing certain things, you might jeopardize the system that you belong to. I understand that. But it doesn't stop you from donating. We have several people, as you guys see, I am the CEO of my company, but the things that happen is happening with people behind the scene. You never see those people, but it's happening. You understand what I mean? So you could be involved in something and no one really needs to know.
Well, and I really appreciate that perspective. Again, where we all need support. Whatever, every organizations you see, the major organizations, they too have companies that support them. So we all need support, and we don't know all those companies behind those organizations that's supporting. So it's the same thing. No one has to know who is supporting what you're doing. But to move the needle forward, we all need support when it comes to creating change or creating opportunities for others, especially those within our community. And being that we are on our community and what we need to do, how can we, as Black men, help to change the narrative today?
Well, like I said, we need to get involved, man. We really need to get involved. Not saying that we're not involved, because I know a lot of brothers that are involved in what I'm doing. You can say STEM, whatever. I know there's a lot of brothers that's involved in that. But we need, like you had mentioned before, we need the other brothers to step up, the accountants, the lawyers, the doctors. We need all of them to stand up. And believe it or not, all of our disciplines can be tied in together, believe it or not. So the children will benefit from seeing that, okay, Dr. Cross does this, Dr. Heflin does this, and so does this. Because I've tested it just to see what the response will be. My biggest turnout, Dr. Cross, my biggest turnout for any event was when I took 4 individuals. I took a top scientist in Georgia, a a top technologist in Georgia, a top engineer, and a mathematician. And I put all four of those individuals in front of students. It was about almost 100 students.
Wow.
That came on their own outside of the school system. And I wanted them to get an opportunity to see four different disciplines, how they operate, how you can get into them. And that's what we need to do, man. We need to do that. When you come across different things like that, take your kid. Even if you don't understand anything about it yourself, take your kid. Because to me, our responsibility is to make sure that our offspring, our seed, exceeds us.
Correct.
So if I don't know it, so what? I'm taking my son to learn robotics. So you need to do that. And we need to get away from, oh, that seemed hard, by placing our fears on a child that has not even developed the fear yet.
Man, that is powerful right there. Putting our fears on the next generation. We have to expose them. And as you mentioned, man, with you bringing those different professionals together, and you had a great turnout, that shows they have the desire to learn. We just have to support their desires. And it's easier, as I've heard, where it's easier to become what you're exposed to, what you see. So we should not limit the next generation by not exposing them to the opportunities. We are not, as they would say, monolithic. We can do so much. There are different things that we can do. But if we don't expose the next generation, because we weren't exposed to it, they're not going to have the desire to it, to do it. So you're right. We have to make sure we're not extending our fears on the next generation. Don't worry about if they can do it or not. Expose them to it, because innately we have the ability to do whatever we put our minds to, and everyone will not do the same thing or go on the same path, because you will realize that, you know what, I'm better at mathematics, or I'm better at business, or I'm better at being an entrepreneur, because some people are more social than others. And with how things are going right now, we all have to develop that social skill to deal with people. But not everyone have to be front and center. But it's just to expose the youth to whatever is out there. And being that technology now is the thing, we have to expose them to it and let them find their space, find what they love within that space. And just like what you're doing with robotics and coding, and seeing those things that you're doing, man, it's like really cool to just to see them. You see what I'm saying? That's something that I myself was exposed to, and it's not something that you see we do a lot within our communities. From my perspective, I don't know if more people out there doing it, but when I see all those things that you're doing, man, it's like really cool. I've seen other ethnic groups do it, but not so much, it's coming from our community when it comes to robotics and stuff like that.
But that's why I entered into this, man. I want to change the perception of thinking that other cultures is the only one that does this. And we are only the consumers, so to speak. We're not the producers. And I want to change that mindset that we can produce it. We can do this. So I tell all of my students, not to brag or anything like that, but I am up to say it's 1,775 students I have taught.
Wow.
And the reason that I say that is because only about 200 look like me. And I found out that it was kind of hard for me to take. And I want everyone to start investing in their children, investing in what they want to do. If you see Johnny, so to speak, If you see him playing PlayStation 5 all day, dig into his mindset. He likes games. You know that already.
Mm-hmm.
So now find out what he needs to make a game and take that a step further. You bought the game already. So we're going to get past you don't have the money.
Mm-hmm.
Because you bought the $500 system already.
Yeah.
So he's playing that. So in the book is only what, $39 or something like that. So I said that to say this, you guys, we really need to invest in our children. We really do. Like we invest in ourselves.
Man, that's a really good perspective right there. Especially when we're talking about changing the narrative. We buy the gaming system, then why not teach them how to create the game that they love so much? And the book is much cheaper, but just letting them know that, man, look, you're playing the game already, and this is how they make the game.
Yeah.
And you could be one of the game creators later. Sometimes we have to plant that seed in their minds. So I really do appreciate that perspective. And because we see the things, why not say, man, look, you could be the one to do it and have others playing your game later. And some kids will take on that challenge. And because you never know if you don't tell them. And so you have to tell them, because again, go back to what you said, not because we didn't get exposure to it. We should project our fears on the next generation. We have to expose them to what is possible. And so I really appreciate that perspective. The book is much cheaper than the game.
Yes. Yes.
Man.
What I want to piggyback off of is the fear aspect. I also tell my students that everyone that's above the third grade is qualified to do anything in this world. And the reason I say that is because here in the US, if you do not know how to read, you will not go to the fourth grade. Okay? So the only thing you need to succeed in anything is to be able to read. You're past that. So we as a community, we need to get away from, like I mentioned before, being scared of things. We know our kid can read. That's half the battle, if not the whole battle.
Yeah.
Because the next step, he only has to implement what he's just read. That's it. This stuff is not difficult, you guys. And I'll say it again, this stuff is not difficult. And when I say stuff, I mean humanoid robotics. Not difficult, not at all. The first person who ever taught me my first program was 5 years old. So we must stop the excuses, you guys. We must stop it. 5 years old. Remember that. 5 years old. And like Dr. Cross mentioned in the beginning, if you visit my page, you'll see exactly what I do with these robots.
Oh, yeah.
And a 5-year-old got me on that journey.
Man,
Wow.
man, it is like really cool. It could be like a hobby, because I don't know if I'm gonna go into like robotics like full time, but it's just like really cool to see the creation of the stuff that you're doing. And once the kids, man, are the youth, the young people are exposed to it, I know they will love it, because every student, every young people will not say want to be into robotics or coding, but man, exposing them to it can change their perception of what the technology is about. So that leads to this, being that we want to expose the young people and let them see what the technology can provide them. I will ask is, what or who inspired or influenced you to pursue the path that you're on?
Okay, it's amazing. The first college that I attended was UWM. That's University of Milwaukee. Okay, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Okay. And it was happenstance, you guys. It was nothing planned. Some people may say it was nothing but God.
Yeah.
Some people might say it was just a coincidence. I was walking down the hall in the university, and I noticed something on the screen, and I seen a professor, and I was being nosy, just to be candid. And I leaned in and I asked him, "What are you doing?" He said, "I am reviewing Google Maps." This before you guys even knew what Google Maps was. He said, "They sent me this for me to review it and get my opinion on it." I'm like, "Oh, wow." So, and he asked me, his next question was, "What is your address?" I said, "Oh, my address is such and such." He typed in the address and he pulled up the front of my house.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Wow." And I said, "How did you do that?" He said, "Well, son, it's technology, and this is what they sent me. They sent me the beta type, and I reviewed it for him." So I told him, "Sir, I do not want to be left out the loop. I do not want to be one of these guys who walking around and don't know nothing about the world that's happening around." And it started from there. It
Oh
started
man.
from there. Like I said, I was a computer science major, and it went on. And just to let you guys know, when I got up to like we say calculus 3, it became mind-boggling. But I got my first degree, and then for the master's, I changed. That's when the change came in. But you guys, it was awesome. That's how it started. That was the spark. That was the spark.
Man, and I just shared that story. I remember when I just came to the States and I told someone that we're with the school that I was at and stuff like that. So they pulled up I didn't know anything really about like the Google Maps and stuff like that. So the person pulled up the thing on their computer and be telling me what's around me. And I was like, where are you? Are you here? They were in Florida. So I was like, how do you know? And so to my surprise, because I had no clue when I just got here from Jamaica about this Google Map stuff. And so I was like, man, where are you? So I was like, I got really surprised, thinking that the person was where I was at the time, not knowing they were all the way in Florida, but were able to tell me everything that was around me, the pond, everything. Oh man, I was really surprised. So I can just imagine when you saw that and just your curiosity and wanting to pursue it and stuff like that. And the same thing will happen to the young people. Once you get them curious, they will develop the desire on their own to pursue whatever they're exposed to. And they're exposed, but sometimes what they're exposed to is not positive. And if it's not positive, being that they're exposed to it, they will pursue it. So it's on us to help them to develop that desire. And with that, I will say, what is your perspective on the current climate of Black men in society today?
I think we're making strides. What we need to, I guess we can say, be more vocal, be more out front. The days of hiding behind the scenes of worrying about the repercussions of what you might think or what you might do, those should be a thing of the past. Because you see that's not helping us as a community. It's not. So we have to get out here. We know this stuff. We know this stuff. I know my craft. I can do this in my sleep, like they say. And we need to put it out there that this exists. This is here. We need to put it out there as a community. Don't wait on anyone's permission to use the wording that you use. Don't wait on anyone's green light. Give yourself a green light and make this happen for your community. It doesn't take anything, you guys. like I told people before, I started this journey with a laptop. That's it. But the desire was there. Desire was there. Instead of me, when I came into my first little piece of change or whatever, being an entrepreneur, instead of buying a car, instead of buying a Gucci bag, I bought a robot.
Wow.
I said, I'm going to buy a robot because I know this robot is going to impact more people than myself. So that's how I looked at it. I'm the only one who can drive a car. I'm the only one who can carry the Gucci bag, but there are thousands of children have experienced the robot and have
Man,
experienced coding.
man, that's
So,
powerful right there. And that goes to say what you had mentioned in regards to invest in ourselves and think beyond ourselves and let what we do impact others. And as you mentioned, yeah, we're making strides, but we still have to think beyond ourselves to move the needle forward, per se. And
yeah.
that's something that we have to become more cognizant of as we
Mhm.
go forward, as based on where we are in society today. The change is going to come by thinking beyond who we are. Whatever we do can't solely be about us. Yeah, we can have the desire, as you mentioned, to buy the car, but we may need to get some other stuff done.
Yeah. And my take on that, Dr. Cross, my take on that, yes, you can have the car, but you might have to postpone it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not going to kill you. It's not going to kill you. So what is a better alternative than you having an income to take care of the car instead of you just going out and buy the car because you didn't cross a certain amount of dollars? It doesn't make sense to me.
It just goes to, as you mentioned, man, just investing in what you believe will make a difference, especially if you have the desire for it, especially if you have the passion for it. And again, it may not be technology, as we have been talking about.
Mhm.
It could be your business. It could be something to help with mental health, whatever it is that we have the desire in. And we just have to invest in it and know that we may not get the support before we put the support in it.
Yeah.
And if we wait, for someone to invest in our dreams, we may not start that project or start making progress in what we want. So I really appreciate just what you're saying in regards to, yeah, there are things that we may have a desire for, but if we know what we're doing will make a difference, we should make the investment in it.
Yes. And just to piggyback off that a little bit, I want to make this very plain. And you might be a person who started something. I'm just here to tell you from personal experience that you will probably never see the fruit of your labor. Because the person who instilled in me the confidence to do what I need to do, I don't even know if she's living now. Because I met her when I was 10 years old. And if I were to walk up to her now and tell her, yes, 8 years ago, I walked across the stage and now I'm Dr. Elliott Heflin, she would probably pass out.
Wow.
But she planted that seed. And I said that to let you guys know that once you plant the seed, don't worry about how it's going to grow. That's not your job. Plant the seed. You don't even know if it's, I guess you can say, for lack of a better term, it might be a misfit in the neighborhood. It might be the guy who you think is not going to do anything. Plant the seed in it. You don't know
That's right.
because you don't know where it's going to turn out to be. You don't know. You say, oh, Dr. Cross told me when I was 10 years old that I will be the next astronaut. Now he's working at NASA. You never know. And
Man.
Dr. Cross may never seen that day. But don't take it for granted, you guys, that you don't have the power to tell these kids, give them a direction, or at least give them the aspiration, as they say, to shoot for the moon. And if you don't hit the moon, at least you'll be among the stars.
That's right.
At least give them that.
Man, that is so right and profound at the same time, because we cannot tell. Because to be honest with you, sitting here and being deaf across myself, this wasn't something that a lot of people, when I was growing up, could have imagined. I couldn't myself. But, there were people along the way that encouraged me, not to come this far, but to do what I was doing where I was at the time. And say, man, you can do this. And that thing leads to something else. So you're right. We have to just plant the seed and encourage, because we never know. As you mentioned, you could be that misfit in the community. No one think that you're going to amount to anything, because I had a lot of people who didn't believe that I would amount to anything. While there were a few people that would encourage and say, man, keep doing what you're doing. At the time, I was just an athlete to them or to myself. I was just an athlete. That's where my mind was. I limit myself. But each step forward, and each environment I go in, somebody has planned something else in my mind that helped me to think beyond where I was or what was possible. So you're right. We just have to make sure we plant the seeds. We have to make sure we don't, and I go back to what you have said, project our fears on the next generation. Don't care if they can do it or not. Help them to think about it, and don't let what we believe or the limitations we have stop them from exploring and becoming who they are capable of becoming. And I'm going to keep remembering that which you said, don't project our fears on the next generation. I think that is powerful. And I think that's a way for us to move the needle forward.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So with that, I will go to my next question. And again, it's about creating change. And again, it's about us as men, what we do. So what change from your perspective? And you may have said this already during the conversation, but what change do you want to see in general and amongst Black men?
What I want to see among Black men is for us to come together as a collective unit, to come together and see exactly what each one of our disciplines can benefit from one another. Because I can assure you, I can take what I do and implement it into any discipline. So if I can do that with my discipline, I'm pretty sure others can take their discipline and implement it into whatever. And we just have to get past that. I'm a doctor, so I won't be talking to a technologist. I'm this, I won't be talking to him. So the students see this perspective. No, we need to show them that everything in the world is connected.
Yeah.
Once we show them that everything in the world is connected, then they'll say, oh, well, I didn't want to do this. Just to let you know, and just to give you a little story behind it, I had a student, he wants to be a doctor. So he couldn't understand why he was in robotics class. I told him, you're in robotics class because it teaches you to have critical thinking and patience. But take it a step further, they now have AI robots that's doing surgery. So now we have implemented technology into the health industry. So now you should see, oh, here's a reason for me to be here. I want to be a doctor. Once I go into surgery, I'm going to see these AI robots and I'm going to have a leg up because I know something about AI. Yeah, I'm going to have to read the material, but it won't be intense on like a person who's just seeing it for the first time.
Man, that is true. As you mentioned, the change amongst us, that we have to see the reason behind working together as a collective. That's a change. And also, as you talk about with technology and where we're going and why we think we need to be doing it, especially when you mention the student, it helps us to develop different parts of our mind and different understanding. And it's, again, goes back to remove that limitation of whatever we think, oh, this is not related, but it is related to some extent. Everything is related because, all right, say in college you do sociology and you may have to do a business class. You may be wondering what the business have to do with it. But sociology deals with people, and then business will help you out to, because almost everything, as you mentioned, man, I think, and that's the mindset that we have to have. Don't close off something that because we don't think it relates to what we are doing, that it has a different name or a different discipline.
Yeah.
It really relates or connect with each other. And once we get past that, I'm doing sociology, so I'm not going to do anything. I don't want no class in business, or I don't want no class in social work, whatever it is, but just to be open and realize that each discipline can help us, despite if that's not our focus. So I really appreciate that perspective. And what you said, as men, we must see the need of working together and the value of working together and how that can help us to move the needle forward.
And I just want to add that as men, we need to teach our daughters and our sons to ask the question, the 3-word question, why? And once we instill that in them, why this, Dad? Why this? Yes, they might get on your nerves. Why this? Why this? Why this? And you keep asking why until you get to the root. As you and I know, once you get to the saturation point of that research, then you can be satisfied. Yeah. Well, we're not teaching our children to ask why. We're not teaching them to question us. And we should. And if we don't know the answer, like you said, like we've been saying through this whole podcast, is get over your fear and say, oh, I don't know. Ask Dr. Cross. I think he knows.
Yeah.
Why not? What's wrong with you not knowing? We don't know everything. So direct it to someone who knows. I don't know anything. I'm not going to say anything, but I don't know a lot about money. So I would seek out a professional that does handle money every day. That's his job. I will seek that person out. And it would not diminish me in any type of way that I do not know money. If I instill it in my children, then they might instill it in me. You never know. Don't be afraid.
Man, yes. You know, we have to get past the fear with whatever we choose to do or have the desire to do. We have to get past the fear. And I really like that, which you said, encourage them to ask why. Don't just take everything at face value. Why is this? And so it's like we instilling that curiosity. And by instilling the curiosity, we'll get past a lot of limitations. Because when you become curious, you will also develop the desire to learn. And you may not learn from that one person that you're asking. But once you become curious, you will start to make the search for yourself. And with technology and information at our fingertips right now, once we instill the curiosity or nurture that curiosity, especially in the next generation, we will have some great leaders, some great change agents, and some pioneers, developers, innovators, and stuff like that. So it is really, I do support what you said, help them to think about the why behind whatever they see, and why is this, and why is that, and why should we do this, and why should we continue this. It will nurture that curiosity. And that's where we would say, stop moving forward because we stop asking why. Yeah. With time, It's like we lose that curiosity. That's how we started out when we were kids, when we were growing up. We want to know everything. We want to know why this, why that. And over time, it's like we lose that curiosity. So it's like we stop expanding ourselves. And it's like we become just stuck where we are. And so I do support that why question that we need to continue asking. And with that, I will say, what was a pivotal moment in your life?
A pivotal moment in my life. Okay. I would say when I encountered, I guess you can say, someone validating my teaching ability. That's when it was pivotal for me. It was, man, it was something else. I was sitting in, like you said, I was sitting in a business class.
Yeah.
And that business class has nothing to do with computer science. Remember, I'm a computer science major. So I'm sitting in the business class and the professor walks up to me and he says, "You really know this stuff. I see you teaching the whole entire class how to do this, how to do that. Have you ever thought about becoming an educator?" I said, "No." I said, "Well, I guess I am doing what you do, huh?" He was like, "Yes." And from there, man, I held on to that. I held on to that and as you can say, cultivated. So that was a pivotal moment for me. And then when I got an opportunity to share what I know with others, man, that meant so much because it didn't go the way I wanted to go. I wanted to have my own school and all of that, big dreams. Not saying it's not going to happen, but that's what I wanted. But you guys, I have entered into a platform that, man, it's something else. It's something else. And like I said, it gave me the ability to reach over 1,700 students at this particular time. And I only been on the platform 2.5 years. Wow. That's kids. That's a lot of mine. Even if I just, like I tell my wife, even if just one turned out to be the next Bill Gates, I have done my job.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. We may not change the world, but we may inspire someone who later change the world. So we may want to, that may be our desire to change the world, but as you mentioned, we may just impact that one person that later become the person who changes the world.
Yes.
So we have to realize that sometimes how we want things to be, it may not be that way, but we should keep doing what we believe will make a difference. And again, our difference may just inspire that person to do what we have envisioned ourselves to do, because we plant that seed in the person, and then they later do what we wanted to do on the scale that we wanted to do it. But we have to be willing to do what we have the desire to do. But as you mentioned, with that pivotal moment, just someone validating your teaching ability to make the impact, to reach those people that you're serving. I think that sometimes is what we need to go on the journey to do what we have in our hearts to do. Someone who we believe in, then in turn believe in us. And I think that can really change our perspective and our trajectory in life to make the impact when someone, especially someone who we believe in turn, believe in us to do what we have the desire to do, but we're not so confident. And with that person, man, the confidence go to the roof and then puts you on the path to do it. Because, man, as people, we need that at times. We know what we want to do, but when we are around people who we believe in, then in turn believe in us, man, it can make a whole lot of difference. So we just have to keep going and keep doing what we have the desire to do. But with that said, I will ask this. What life lesson have you learned late on your journey that you believe this current generation needs to know?
Okay, what I've learned in my lifetime, you guys, what I've learned is not to, I guess you can say, reflect on who I was. I want to bring forward who I am and what I'm trying to become. That's more important than who I was. That's not important, even though it molded me to be who I am today, but it's not important. It's not important. So that's what I want to leave with the youth is don't worry about, to put it very candid and to make it down in layman's term, just what you did back here, say for instance, just to give you an example, if you did something and you were not successful at, keep at it. Keep at it. I tell children all the time, yes, you see my title. You see my title is Dr. Elliott Heflin Jr. Yes, but I can guarantee you guys, it's some material that I had to read 3 or 4 times before I got it. So that doesn't actually, my name and my title doesn't actually means I am that sharp. But I tell them all the time in a joking matter, I'm probably not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I am a knife.
That's right.
And you can guarantee that. And I said, I spent many years pouring in me what I need to pour in me. And just to get back on track, you guys should keep up with whatever you want to, no matter what it is. Keep at it. If you fail, get up. If you fail, get up again. You fail again, get up. But keep going. And I can guarantee you that the universe will bless you with whatever you want to do. And I say that because, you guys, I don't want to really get too religious on it, you guys, but this is something that sparked me. And this is something that I hold dear to my heart. It's something very simple. I was told as a child that I was made in his image.
That's right.
So if I was made in his image, that means I can do anything.
That's right.
Because they said God can do anything.
Yeah.
So if this is the truth, if I hold this to be true, I can become a technologist, which you guys see. I can learn about coding, which you guys see. And just to give you a backstory on that, you guys, so I'm trying to take all your excuses away. That's why I'm being transparent. I was a high school dropout. So take your excuses away. Stop it.
Man.
Nothing can stop it. And I just remembered when being a high school dropout that I was made in his image. And this is something that he would have not done. And I had something that was behind me also at the same time, a mindset that I don't quit anything, good or bad. So if I'm out here doing things that's not going to be counterproductive to my life and being successful at that, why can't I do something productive? It's going to be productive for my life. Why not? So
that's right. That's right. We are, as you mentioned, once we get that, once we will believe that we can do anything, believe that as we all have heard when we're growing up, depends on the environment you grew up in. We all are created in God's image, and if we are created in God's image, of course, if He can do it, we can. And we may not, again, do all the things that everyone else can do. But if we put our minds to something that we have a desire for, man, you'll be surprised. As you mentioned that you were a high school dropout, but then you remember, man, look, if I'm created in God's image and then I can do whatever, I'm going to just apply myself. And as you mentioned, being where you are right now, you may have to read one thing 3 times to get it. But it's because you believe you can get it. Because when you believe something, you will do it until you get it. You may not get it as fast as you want to, but because you have the belief. And if it's 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, we just got to do it so we can get past that hurdle of not knowing what we want to know. Because some things may take a little bit more time to grasp and stuff like that, but it stems from that belief. And once you have the belief, man, anything is possible, even the thing that challenges you, because belief trump challenges and setbacks and disappointments, because that's part of the journey. But
Yes.
sometimes those challenge helps us to dig deeper within ourselves. And sometimes that's the purpose of the challenge, for us to dig deeper, to realize more of who we are, that we wouldn't otherwise do if we didn't have that challenge.
Mhm.
But we just have to make sure that we do our part and never forget that innately we have the ability, because from what we came from, we can do just about anything we put our minds to do. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So my this is not my last question, but before I do ask my final question, please, if you could share with the listeners where they can find you and the work that you're doing to support you, to help you to make the impact that you want to make, and even to open that school that you'd like to open. But share with the listeners where they can find you and support your work.
Okay, you guys can find me at Reality Text, all one word, all lowercase with an S, realitytext.com. And you will land on my landing page, which is my website, and you will get an opportunity to see all the different courses that I have, which is Python, Python Advanced, Scratch, JavaScript, JavaScript Advanced, and humanoid robotics. And I offer them in several different formats. They're usually in 10-week increments, meaning that you can take once a week, twice a week, or 5 days a week. It's depending on how quick you want to get it over. It's up to you. But I'm here to accommodate you guys, and I want you to be exposed to this different technology. That's why I'm putting it out there. And I guarantee you guys, I am going to be an effective teacher. I'm going to make sure that your learner, your scholar, knows exactly what we are doing. I'm going to make it my purpose. That's the way I was trained, you guys. I was taught if I could not communicate my thoughts to a kindergarten, I'm not an effective teacher. And I'm pretty sure all of us at the collegiate state, we have encountered a professor that said, what did he just say?
That's
So
right.
we had one of those. I'm not that guy. I know how to meet them where they are. I can guarantee you that. Okay.
And that's great. But are you also on any social media platform?
Yes, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook as Elliott Heflin. You can find me on IG as Ed Tech Network. Okay. And also, you can find me on Twitter as Elliott Heflin Jr. I know you guys, I should make them all the same. Excuse me for that. I should make them all the same. But you can find me on all social media. But I guarantee you, if you go to the realitytext.com, I have a link that's set up that sends an email directly to me. If you correspond there, we can direct you to anywhere that you need to go.
Okay. And I will also put means of connecting with you in the description for the listeners to connect with you, because I believe what you're doing is great. I believe it is needed. I believe our young people need to be exposed to the technology, and for us to be as competitive as anyone else. So I do support the work that you're doing. I do believe, man, our young people need to be exposed to it, and hope somebody that sees this can help to create that school that will give you more more, so you can have access to more young people to come there. That's what they're going to be focusing on, the technology. So hope that something, will happen in the near future. But let's see, we never know who will be listening, these conversations. So, but man, I just want to say, man, keep doing the work that you're doing. But before we wrap up for today, I want to ask my final question. What impact do you want to have on the world?
The impact that I want to have on the world, the legacy that I want to leave, I want to empower many people who look like me, and not to be gender biased or anything like that. But I would love to see males, Black males, leading the pack on what we're doing. We know from history, you guys, we know from history, since this is Black History Month, we know from history that whatever we enter into, we end up conquering. We know that. So why not start entering in these fields that we are not, I guess you could say, prevalent, so to speak, up front. So our children can have the opportunity to see themselves. We're not going to see ourselves in the books unless we start producing books like Dr. Cross herself, start producing books that see, oh, this is a Black male. So we start doing that, you guys, I think we'll be on our way. I think that is the key. It's just my opinion. I think that is the key, that we become independent again, not deviating away from the system. You don't have to do that. But I mean, taking your own education in your own hands. That's what I mean. That's the purpose of a library. Excuse me. That's the purpose of a library, and that's the purpose of bookstore. So you can take your own education in your hand.
I do agree. And as you said, I will just go from the top of what you said. Your desire is to impact the next generation, as many people as possible, especially our Black males. But I really and truly agree with what you just said about taking the education in our own hands. Just go and empower ourselves. We don't have to wait on anyone to do it for us. But also, what you said, we can conquer anything we put our minds to. We just need to get in the space. And history have shown it. We will excel wherever we go. And I think that's one of our power. And not to say other groups are afraid of that power per se, but we have gone into spaces that we weren't exposed to. And we are doing an awesome job at it. So I think once we make up our minds to do something, we can do it, because innately we have the ability to do it. Dr. Heflin, it is, it's just great having you here on the Black Male Impact. And thank you for sharing your knowledge, your perspective, and your insights. I know the listeners have, taken something from this conversation. I hope they do. So again, man, I want to thank you for being here on the Black Male Impact.
No problem. I appreciate you inviting me. Like I said, this is our job. This is our job to make sure that they know. Take the excuses away. And I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And listeners, just as always, please continue to support, share, and like, and whichever way you see fit to support the Black Male Impact. Our goal is to continue to make positive change for others, for ourselves, and for the next generation. Thanks for being here on the Black Male Impact.